Midway upon the journey of my life, I found myself within a dark castle, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Strange. I have to uncover the mystery of this place and these odd artifacts. These tomes are hundreds of years old, perhaps older. Empty? All the pages are blank. It doesn't make sense.
Gwen, it's Halloween, I'm bored. What are you doing? Let's go trick-or-treating.
Oh, it's just you, Organism 9186.
Of course it's me. I've been stuck here ever since you destroyed my homeworld and exterminated my species.
Are you really still upset about that, Organism? Look, we're gonna be here a little bit longer. I have to find out more about this weird uncle of mine and why he left me this weird place and this weird box full of strange objects.
Let's go trick-or-treating. I want candy.
Okay, first of all, Organism, there's a pandemic. No one is going trick-or-treating. Second off, you are an alien creature. No one knows that you exist except for me. If I let you outside, it would cause a total panic. And then third, you're an energy being of pure energy and light. You can't even digest candy.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Like I said, a bunch of weird stuff my estranged uncle left me in his will along with this house. There's artifacts and all these weird books. You can check it out with me if you want.
I was bored as soon as you said books. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go recalibrate my plasma tendrils.
Alright, whatever. Just don't go too far. I guess I'll just make a YouTube video then. Petrificus Cotalis. Wingardium Leviosa. Avada Kedavra. Oh, you guys are already here. I hope I didn't freak you guys out too much. I'm just going through my dead relatives' things. A bunch of items were left to me apparently, and I even got this crazy house. Some of the stuff is pretty cool actually, like there's this cool pocket watch. And there's this neat hourglass. I've always wanted one of these. But then look at this silly wand thing. I mean, this guy think he was a wizard or something. And then there's this cane/staff thing. I mean, how ridiculous. I mean, really, dude, calm down. And also rest in peace. You know, there's been some weird things happening around this house. I've been hearing odd noises, but I'm sure it's just an old house being old, I guess. I mean, I personally don't believe in ghosts or spirits or anything. I guess the coolest thing my uncle left me were these old books. I thought they might be old history books or something, but weirdly enough, though they're clearly very, very old, there's nothing written in them. That did not just happen. I'm seeing things. That's it. I'm definitely seeing things. Organism? Organism 9186, is that you? Old house being an old house. And there's also this weird statue. I don't like it very much. But something about it looks so familiar. It reminds me of something from an old story. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Wait a second. This looks just like the creature from H.P. Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu. And come to think of it, this whole situation, the dead uncle, the artifacts, the books, it's almost like I'm inside of a Lovecraft No, Lovecraft wrote fiction. I'm not inside of a Lovecraft story. Lovecraft is fiction. At least I hope Lovecraft is fiction. There's so many stories I would rather be in other than a Lovecraft story for multiple reasons, but I guess the main one is things don't ever turn out good for the protagonist in Lovecraft stories, or at least almost never. Alright, just calm yourself down, Quinn. Calm yourself down. Lovecraft wrote fiction. I mean, the short story The Call of Cthulhu is one of the scariest and most enduring horror stories of all time, but Lovecraft was writing fiction. He wasn't channeling anything that was real, no true horrors. Or was he? You know what? It's a good thing I always keep a copy of the Lovecraft compendium on hand. I need to find out what happens in this story. It's the only thing that can help me out of this sticky situation. I can't shake the feeling that bad things are going to happen, guys. I have no choice. I've got to do a Halloween special.
The cosmos is endless. It is sprawling beyond comprehension. Science tells us that the universe is mostly empty, made up of distant stretches of vast silent emptiness, with only star systems passing by swiftly, only to return into the void. Galaxies themselves even are silent wanderers, separated by incomprehensible cosmic gulfs. With all we know now, the wise are aware of the fact that we have merely observed an infinitesimally small portion of our universe. Lovecraft's cosmic horror filled the gaps in our knowledge of the universe with unspeakable terrors. He wrote of things wandering through the dark, things so great, so beyond our reasoning or understanding that perhaps they wouldn't even see us as living beings ourselves, or even be bothered by our presences enough to consider us nuisances. But in the Call of Cthulhu, the horror does not await in distant space. It is not bound to another realm of existence, only able to cross over when summoned by the Necronomicon. Cthulhu slept beneath the very ocean itself. In 1997, scientists recorded one of the loudest underwater sounds ever to occur. It became known as the bloop. Researchers at the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration had been listening to volcanic activity in the southern Pacific Ocean. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard. Some began to speculate that the noise originated from some unknown animal. But for an animal to be able to make such a loud noise, it would have had to have been enormous. Christopher Fox, who worked for the NOAA at the time, was interviewed by David Woolman on the extraordinarily loud noise which emanated from the depths. This is a text excerpt from the interview. Fox's hunch is that the sound nicknamed bloop is most likely to come from some sort of animal because its signature is a rapid variation in frequency similar to that of sounds known to be made by marine beasts. There's one crucial difference, however. In 1997, bloop was detected by sensors up to 4,800 kilometers, 3,000 miles apart. That means that it must be far louder than any whale noise or any other animal noise for that matter. Is it even remotely possible that some creature bigger than any whale is lurking in the ocean depths? The sound became the subject of wild speculation, and eventually some connected an eerie dot. As I said, in Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu, the horror is here on Earth, asleep beneath the ocean. And there is more. The source of the mysterious bloop was triangulated to approximately 50 degrees longitude and 100 degrees latitude, a remote area in the southern Pacific Ocean. An eerie fact for the fans of the work of Lovecraft, for you see, Cthulhu sleeps dead dreaming at Relay, a sunken underwater city in a remote place within the southern Pacific Ocean. Had Lovecraft been prescient? Had Cthulhu called out from his city, heralding his return, preparing to rise forth to reclaim the earth which was his to rule? Well, no. It took about 10 years, but the scientists did finally discover that the origin of the bloop was cracking sea ice. Not as dramatic, but a huge relief for most of us. But although the bloop was not actually the sound of Cthulhu calling up from his undersea city, the fear that the sound of the bloop invokes is a part of the true horror that Cthulhu represents. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live in a placid island of ignorance, in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little, but someday the piecing together of dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. What do we really know? About the universe? About our own world, even? Since the dawn of mankind, oceans have been a source of mystery, awe, and terror. The ocean could bring life or death. It could smash apart ships, swallow up cities, bringing storms that turn the sky the color of blood. The ocean is often personified in stories as the dwelling place of divine beings, or as a divine being itself. There are many examples of this, from Poseidon of Greek mythology to Manon of Celtic mythology. Gods in the work of Lovecraft, however, are different from gods as they appear in the vast majority of mythologies. For one, they are not truly gods, but they are beings so great, so beyond us, that we can only call them divine. In mythology, gods are often wrathful, appeased by sacrifice, fueled by belief. Though many worship the gods of Lovecraft's universe, their worship is in vain. For humankind is not significant. We are ants to them, less than ants. The implication in the Call of Cthulhu is that one day Cthulhu will rise, and when he does, we cannot stop him. We can only bend to his will. Cthulhu represents the fear of something horrible in the future, something inevitable that cannot be stopped. You may not know when, just that it is coming, and horrors await.
I think this is the right way. I don't remember this hallway though. Oh god, I think I'm lost. Oh man, maybe I should have listened to Quinn. Wait, what am I saying? I hate that guy. I want candy, I gotta get the heck out of this place. Huh. What's this weird Ouija board? Oh, it looks just like that weird ugly statue that Quinn's playing with in the other room.
What is your pleasure, sir? I am called Mr. Howdy.
Well, you can talk? What are you doing in here? What is this weird place?
This is my place, of course. I am a teller of stories and a collector. I hope that you will
I
be
don't care about any of this. I just want to get out of this place and get my freedom.
Very well, you must ask the Ouija.
A Ouija board?
Yes.
What kind of question should I ask the Ouija board? I don't know what to say.
You have only to speak and you will know.
Wait, how do I escape this place and be... B R I N G bring U S us Q U I N Bring us, Quinn. This doesn't feel right. What is this place? Why are you? Why do I feel like I can't move? What are you? What's happening? I feel like something...
You will do for now, until we have the one that we truly desire.
No.
Perhaps I will set you free when I am done with you.
H.P. Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu is set in the year 1926. A man named Francis Wayland Thurston has been left with all of his uncle's things after the man's sudden and unexplained death, and he soon begins to piece together a terrible secret. It begins with the discovery of a box containing old news clippings, notes and letters from the professor, as well as a peculiar and eerie bas-relief depicting a terrifying, vaguely humanoid monster. All of the items seem to relate to a mysterious, near-impronounceable phrase, Cthulhu Fatagan. The bas-relief was made of clay and appeared to have been carved recently. The flat carving depicted a winged creature with a tentacled face and bat-like wings. Wayland comes to discover that the bas-relief had been carved by a young artist who had seen the image in his dreams. He had brought the idol to the professor in the hope that he could possibly identify it, and by the most unusual of coincidences, the professor actually did recognize the image, as well as the phrase the young man had heard in his dreams. Cthulhu Fatagan. He had first come into contact with the strange phrase and grisly image nearly 20 years earlier in the year 1908.
That year, the American Archaeological Society, of which my uncle, the character's uncle had been a part of,
received a visit from a man named John Raymond Legrasse, a police inspector. He brought with him a bizarre green stone sculpture.
Not unlike this one, I guess. It's made of some strange stone that no one recognizes. It's got runes all over it that no one can decipher. It was found amongst some strange cult in New Orleans. I mean, not this one, of course, the one from the story. Now you have to understand, the archaeologists got very excited about the statue. Though it was very clearly ancient, the stone was unplaceable and the language indecipherable.
The characters along the base were equally baffling, and no member present, despite a representation of half the world's expert learning in the field, could form the least notion of even their remotest linguistic kinship. They, like the subject and material, belonged to something horribly remote and distinct from mankind, as we know it. Something frightfully suggestive of old and unhallowed cycles of life, in which our world and our conceptions have no part. The statue was a complete anomaly. They are all completely baffled, except for one man. Out of all of the archaeologists in the room, only one man knew anything about what they were looking at, a man named William Channing Webb. Nearly 50 years earlier, he had encountered something similar during a tour of Greenland in search of runic inscriptions. It was there that he encountered the cult. There was little much known of this cult among the other Inuit natives there. They spoke of it in hushed tones, saying that it had come down from some terribly ancient eons before the earth was even formed. The cult engaged in nameless rites involving human sacrifice and performed strange hereditary rituals which they addressed to some supreme elder devil. The story uses the Inuit name Tornasuk in reference to this supreme devil. In the Inuit religion, Tornasuk is a very powerful sky god, the leader of the Tornat, a group of protective gods. He is also sometimes described as a mischievous demon spirit, which in the real world was known to be worshipped by way of offering in Greenland and even in the northern eastern parts of North America. William Channing Webb recognized the statue because the cult he had encountered in Greenland had danced around a crude bas-relief depicting the same entity, and the words in which the Inuit cult had chanted were the same words the New Orleans cult had chanted.
Fanglui, Magalnath, Cthulhu Rale, Wagalnal Fatakin.
The direct translation being, in his house at Rale, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. The natives of the Louisiana swamps had called for the police. Though the cult has presumably always worshipped there, something was different now. The natives were in the grip of unimaginable terror. They spoke of voodoo and darker things. Drums beat from deep within the black woods into which none dared venture, though several of their women and children had gone missing. The wild screams and chants could be heard through the night, and a hellfire blazed in the distance. 20 police set out into the woods, which hid the light of day. By the time they reached the cult, it was night. The region they had ventured into was known to be an evil place. The natives would come no further into that place of hideous worship. There was said to be a black lake there, and within it a great formless being, worshipped by the cult and the winged things which flew up from black caverns within the earth. To look upon it was death. It had been there before men, and even before the beast of the woods. It was nightmare itself, and to see it was to die. But it made men dream, and so they knew enough to keep away. The cult members, at least 100 of them, worshipped at the fringe of this evil place, producing inhuman noises which chilled the bones as they echoed through the forest. The horror of the place overtook the men as soon as they saw it. The cult members danced around a flame circle surrounding a stone pillar. At the top of the pillar sat the strange stone statue. There were dead men, the missing natives, impaled upon wooden stakes surrounding the horrific circle. One of the policemen, Joseph D. Galvez, even swore that he could hear the beating of enormous wings just overhead, hidden in the darkness, and could hear a great inhuman voice call out in response to the ritual as the terrible luminous eyes stared out. Once the madness was settled, 47 of the cult members were captured and interrogated. According to the cult members, they worshipped the Great Old Ones, beings of enormous power who lived eons before men ever walked the world. They came to the young earth from beyond the sky. Those old ones were gone now, inside the earth, under the sea, but their dead bodies had told their secrets in dreams to the first men, who formed a cult which had never died. This was that cult, and the prisoners said it had always existed and always would exist, hidden in distant wastes and dark places all over the world, until the time when the great priest Cthulhu, from his dark house in the mighty city of R'lyeh under the waters, should rise and bring the earth again beneath his sway. Someday he would call when the stars were ready, and the secret cult would always be waiting to liberate him. You see, mankind was not alone amongst the intelligent beings of the universe, and perhaps beside beings of such magnitude, mankind cannot even be considered intelligent. The figure depicted on the statue was indeed Cthulhu, the great priest. The item was made of no known earthly stone because it did not come from Earth. For when the old ones came to this small world, they brought their images with them. The primary form of communication for these beings was the language of thought. Though, by the time men arrived on Earth, they slept within their ancient city, they still could whisper through the void and influence the minds of mortal men. It was how they led the first men to their hidden images. It was how they inspired the old religion and gave them the rituals and spells which could reawaken them when the time was right. For eons it went on this way, the Old Ones dead dreaming in their strange city, until one day something happened, which cut off the connection. The great city of Relay, where the Old Ones slept, maintained by the spells of the great Cthulhu, sank beneath the waves. The primordial, mysterious, earthly waters blocked the voices of the Old Ones from reaching mortal men. But the cult never forgot. They kept the old ways, hidden in the shadowy corners of the world, waiting, knowing that one day the stars would realign, and the time would be right again to awaken the ones who slept beneath the waters. But there was another secret the cult kept, one which they would dare not utter. It was said that other things, shapes out of the darkness, had come up to visit the faithful. They flew up from black caverns within the earth and carried twisted rumors of things to come. Most of the information the men were able to extract came from one man named Castro. He claimed to have spoken to elder members of the cult in China, undying ones who possessed ancient knowledge. They knew of the beings from the stars who had not been entirely made of flesh and blood, that had inhabited the earth beforehand and left behind the arts which could revive them when the time was right. It was said that to herald their coming, the earth would fall into chaos, violence, and ecstasy, every man killing and taking pleasure for his own sake. In the distant corners of the world, the cult kept those old ways. So the Great Old Ones are serious business, basically, and the cult has kept the knowledge of them and how to revive them when the time is right, basically forever, since the dawn of mankind itself. Now that's some pretty ancient knowledge. And then there's the Necronomicon, a book in Lovecraft's universe written by the mad Arab Abdul Azarad. It contained all sorts of information on eldritch horrors, how to communicate with them, and how to summon them. It also supposedly contained dark magic spells. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of some of these old books that my uncle left me, but magic isn't real, and anyway, these books are blank. No, all of these books were... They were blank, I swear it. Magic isn't real anyway. I guess it never hurts to try, I mean... Why not? It's not like anything bad's gonna happen. Let's see here, this one looks interesting. To invoke ancient power. I call forth through space and time, through shadow and night, through earth and sea. Claim what is old, claim what is bound. Wow. Oh, what was that? It must have been organism 9186 somewhere. Yeah, that's what that was. Anyway, that's enough of all of this. Back to the Call of Cthulhu. So basically the purpose of this cult is to help the Great Old Ones wake up when the time is right, and then Cthulhu and the rest of them would be free to do what they do. Which is... what exactly? No one ever asked this question. What is it that the Great Old Ones are doing? So, we know that the Old Ones, including Cthulhu, are cosmic beings. They are bound to cosmic will. When the stars are right, they can leap from world to world. But when the stars are wrong, they could not live. Cthulhu is called the Great Priest, and it is said that his spells are the ones which preserve the Old Ones in Relay until the time was right. It also says that the Old Ones aren't dormant, but in fact communicate with each other from within their tombs through thought. Though the religion of the cult members was merely a utilitarian effort on the part of the Old Ones, the fact that Cthulhu performs spells implies that they themselves are appealing to a grander cosmic authority, and so does the fact that they are extremely subject to cosmic alignment. And the idea that they are described as dead dreaming almost implies that they are all collectively engaged in some sort of great prayer, reaching out to greater powers even beyond them. Now, Great Cthulhu does make an appearance in this short story. The cult ultimately failed to complete its goal, but all the same, Cthulhu had been released by lost sailors on a stormy sea. For whatever reason, the stars had been just right. The great city of Relay rose up from its watery grave, and the spectral inner course of the gods was reconnected with those who inhabit the earth. The cult heard it. The shadowed ones in caverns beneath the earth heard it. Poor young Wilcox had heard it too, and several others from which my uncle, the character's uncle interviewed. They heard the call of Cthulhu, and while the cult celebrated the coming of a new age, the rest, if anything, saw a maddening dream of a terrible city, and poor Wilcox had been briefly driven insane. But for whatever the reason, this was not the right time. This had only been a temporary blip in the cosmic cycle. The stars moved again, and the great city of Relay sunk back into the ocean, taking Cthulhu and the rest of the great old ones with it. Perhaps these events only herald what is to come. Cthulhu and the rest of the old ones will wake up one day, and we will not be able to stop them. And I think right there gets down to the very core of why Cthulhu is really scary. As I said earlier, Cthulhu represents the fear of something to come that is unstoppable. If we could consider the first humans who ever lived, I know impossible, humans exist upon a continuum, but just do this thought experiment with me. Consider the first humans. They would live and have no knowledge of death until they saw it. Once one of them died, they would have been forced to face the terrible truth that the blackness and stillness of death waited for them all. So much of what life is involves staving off death. We must constantly intake air, find food, avoid dangers, all to slow down the inevitable. But death will come to claim us all, just as Cthulhu will come to claim his earthly realm. Death seems to be one of the primary fears amongst conscious beings. Because we are aware of the fact that our bodies will cease to be functional one day, we have created countless different ideas about how our consciousness could potentially exist after death. Believing in an afterlife or reincarnation makes it easier for a lot of people to deal with the fact that they will die. If you rise again after death, like the great old ones rising again after the changing of the stars, then death is not really death. But not all of the ideas that humans have created about the afterlife necessarily depict a positive picture of what's on the other side. To me, one of the most terrifying ideas about the afterlife is hell.
I serve the great purpose. From now to evermore, I will bring them to you. I will bring you the moment.
The Bible describes a lake of fire, but it wasn't until Dante's Divine Comedy that the modern idea of hell was born. The Divine Comedy depicts a man's journey through hell, limbo, and the heavenly realm. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward pathway had been lost. Dante, led by his guide, journeys through the 9 circles of Inferno, passing the condemned undying sinners along the way. In each circle, the sinners are forced to endure different torments at the hands of demons. Within the 9th circle of hell waited Satan himself. The idea of eternal torment is a terrifying one. To me personally, the idea of eternity itself is terrifying. That gets back into another Lovecraft idea, actually. Humans are finite beings, inherently limited. Our conception of reality is linear. We move forward in time. We see things in terms of beginning, middle, and end. I've been of the opinion for a long time now that the greatest mysteries in our universe are beyond our understanding. When someone stares into the eyes of an eldritch horror in a Lovecraft story and goes completely mad upon witnessing it, Lovecraft is playing with this idea. It is a being so complex, so beyond our concept of reality, that our minds sometimes simply break when we encounter them. Stephen King plays with this in what I consider to be his homage to Lovecraft, the book It. One of the biggest misconceptions about Stephen King's It is that the monster is a clown. It's not a clown. The clown is one of the infinite forms in which this creature could potentially take. It came to Earth long ago, long before there were any humans. It slept and waited for millions of years beneath the town that would one day be Derry, because it knew that one day it would have rich food in which to feast upon. Humans, which could envision terrors beyond anything possible for non-intelligent beings. It possessed a true form which was unknowable to mortal sight, and to stare into its shining eyes, illuminated by the dead lights flowing from the cosmic macroverse out of which it was born, was to be maddened. When they got here, it would cast them shrieking insane into the deadlights. This idea of cosmic madness is definitely one that Lovecraft popularized, and this very famous trope, of course, makes an appearance in the Call of Cthulhu as well. I mentioned that the Great Priest himself does make an appearance in this short story, though some of the men who encounter Cthulhu escape. Some of them go mad at the instant they lay eyes upon him.
I think the idea that there are things in existence not meant for humans relates back to the quote from the beginning of the video.
We live on a placid island of ignorance, and it was not meant that we should voyage far.
It suggests that there are some truths that we simply should not be aware of. Some things that we simply should not see. Trolleon.
Hear these words, for I shall only speak them once. There is awesome grandeur in the cosmic cycle. Humankind is insignificant. The cycle will exist without you.
You scared me. Where have you been all this time?
Tell me, Quinn, have you practiced the magic in those spell books?
Yeah, but I can't seem to get the spells to work. I guess my magic is pretty weak.
To unleash the full potential, you must first awaken the power inside of you.
Yeah, and how do you know?
It is written in the Necronomicon.
How do you know about the Necronomicon? I thought you hated reading.
Utter your questions no more. I have found the spell that you need.
Awakening spell? Okay, it doesn't look too hard. I guess we could give it another try. Let's do it.
In this shadow night, in this dark hour, we summon now the ancient powers. Hear us, ruler of the deeps, serpent of the black seas. Rise and commune with me. Lend me your power.
Yes, yes. Keep chanting.
Priest of old, dark lord of
Keep chanting.
I beseech thee. Awaken.
You are the one.
Awaken.
You have always been the one.
Awaken.
You shall be the Quinn?
I don't feel any different.
There. The book. Levitated. Just try.
Whoa. I can do magic. I feel strong. I feel powerful. I feel wrong. Like there's something inside me. Something dark.
This is what you wanted. The power of
No.
the gods.
No. This isn't right. I don't
You
want
cannot
this.
go back now. You are our vessel.
Our? What do you mean our? What are you talking about, organism?
I am no longer Organism 9186. He was easy to possess.
But you have always been surprisingly strong. For years we have waited for a vessel in which to place our Dark Lord, and now it is nearly complete. Your uncle hid you from us, and now we have you. There is only one task yet to be done. The Dark Lord is within you, but he can't live whilst your will remains strong. I am afraid we will have to purify the vessel by killing and releasing your pathetic mortal soul.
So that the Dark One can finally make full use of that body.
No!
Oh, stop it, that hurts. Oh. You are the vessel. Quinn must die so that our Lord can live. Look, the stars are right.
No, please, no. I promise I won't tell anybody about the cult. Yeah, you can find another vessel. I'll help you. I have 4 brothers. You can take any one of them.
Well, that was terrifying.
What are you talking about? That was great.
You really do like to see me suffer, don't you?
Lighten up, it was just a simulation.
Well, I guess you're right. At least we know now what it would be like if Lovecraftian beings actually existed in the real world.
Yeah, that was fun. Hey, since it's Halloween, we should watch a spooky Lovecraft movie to celebrate.
I don't know, Organism. I'm kind of Lovecrafted out. And plus, there's like no good Lovecraft adaptations.
Well, what about that Lovecraft Country show?
Well, Lovecraft Country is actually based off of this book by Matt Ruff. It's kind of a weird horror anthology, but it's only tangentially related to H.P. Lovecraft's work. I did a review on the book and it was kind of an intense experience for me, so I'm not really ready to jump into the show yet.
Well, I heard The Color Out of Space with Nicolas Cage was pretty cool.
Oh, please, do not get me started on that garbage. I have never been so shocked by the lack of plot in a film. Also, Nicolas Cage screaming about his alpacas the entire movie? No thanks. 2 thumbs down.
Well, there's gotta be some good Lovecraft-related movies or shows you like.
Well, there is The Lighthouse starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. I really liked it. It has a bunch of Fire of the Gods ideas in there, you know, like Prometheus and such. You have a young man and an old man working at this lighthouse. Now, the older man does not allow the younger man to operate the lighthouse. He is concealing the illumination just as the gods concealed fire from mankind in Greek mythology. And there's also some pretty cool Lovecraft concepts thrown in. It's a pretty intense movie. Interestingly enough, it's actually based off of a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, at least loosely, who is one of Lovecraft's major influences.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that. 2 dudes in a lighthouse? That sounds lame. And it's in black and white. Black and white films are lame.
Well, I guess you wouldn't like Annihilation then.
What's it about?
Well, it's based off of this book by Jeff Vandermeer. 4 scientists go into this area that's being affected by this weird object that's fallen from space. Many people who go within the area lose track of time and kind of go mad. It's basically a way better adaptation of The Color Out of Space than Nicolas Cage's stupid adaptation, without even being an actual adaptation. And also there's a really cool looking mutant bear in the movie.
Well, that sounds awesome. Why wouldn't I like it?
The main characters are women.
All of them?
Yes.
But you said it was a good movie.
You know, Organism, I just don't think I'm up to watching a movie right now. I think I'm gonna go read horror stories. I have a new anthology to crack open, actually. Yeah, the simulation was cool. It's a good thing that none of that stuff is real, though. See you later.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
None of it's real.